Lewis breaks Bottas and Perez. Cadillac confirm their drivers for 2026 with the help of Keanu Reeves. Lewis gives clues about his state of mind coming into the Dutch Grand Prix and some serious concerns about brakes. This is F1 Grandstand. I'm Tony Craig, and if you are an F1 fan, you are in the right place. Hit the subscribe button and the bell button now. Join the community and get involved. But let's get into it. Hello everyone in the chat. Hey Eric, hey Gemma, hey Yvonne. Nice to have you in there with us. So big day, big news day today. So Graham Loden pulling off the biggest coup Cadillac could have done. Obviously the big announcement today, we've got Sergio Perez, we've got Cadillac all confirmed for 2026 driving for the Cadillac F1 team, and it was even announced on a brilliant video on their Twitter feed starring Keanu Reeves. Does it get any better than that? We know Keanu Reeves is a massive motorsports fan, but it is very, very, very exciting. And I will just drop in at this point in the show. All the regulars will know we've been talking about that this was going to happen since the 21st of July. And I'm glad to say it has. And I think we need to give a big shout out to my man on the ground, Tubby George, because he didn't steer us wrong, did he, guys? He absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, let's get into it. Oh, the first thing I want to touch on as well, one of our subscribers, Gemma, was talking about a story that Graham Loden has enlisted the help of NASA to help with Cadillac. Now, I've delved into this. Basically, the NASA story, just at the top, what Graham Loden was talking about in an interview, he said, I looked a lot into how NASA had done the management structure of the business. I thought there were some very clever things that they did that we could bring into a new design of a Formula One team. Not a car, a team. A complete new way of managing it. The primary objective was to maximize peer-to-peer communication between engineers. So the NASA story was not about technology yet. It was about Graham Loden wanting to bring in the way that they communicate within the NASA departments, between the different departments, the peer-to-peer communication. So he's going to adopt the NASA strategy for peer-to-peer communication within the team. So that's what the NASA story was all about. But first of all, it's all about, you know what, we can't get away from it. It's all about the drivers today. Bottas in his hat. Just a quick recap what this means. Now, Cadillac have recruited Bottas and Perez for their driver lineup. You've got to remember, though, Bottas is bringing with him a 5-place grid penalty issued to him at the 2024 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. I know lots of people have discussed, will he have to serve that grid penalty? Well, just a quick recap. Bottas was found guilty of causing a collision with Kevin Magnussen midway through the race at the Aspen Marina Circuit, Abu Dhabi, but he retired from the event as a result. So because he couldn't receive a time penalty, he was handed a 5-place grid penalty. But you've got to remember that incident occurred during the final race before Bottas lost his seat at stake. So he has to serve that grid penalty because that grid penalty was issued at a time when the rule was, if you get a grid penalty, you serve it in your next Grand Prix. He hasn't had a next Grand Prix yet, so that grid penalty is still live, even though the FIA have changed the ruling that any grid penalty has to be served within a 12-month period. But that rule came in after he was issued the grid penalty. So right now, the FIA spokesperson said, currently, the grid penalty will stand as there's no mechanism to retroactively amend the penalty that was applied under the regulations at the time. So right now, Bottas will make his Cadillac debut at the 2026 Australian Grand Prix, serving his 5-place grid penalty imposed from the offence 15 months earlier. Do we think that's fair? But that is what's currently going to happen. Gemma says, who is Tubby George? I'll never tell. I will never give away the sources to this channel. Never. But yeah, but I think we can all agree, if you've been an avid watcher of this channel, Tubby George giving us great information. And he's on his way to the Dutch Grand Prix as we speak. He's on his way to Holland. But yeah, we will not be revealing our sources. And let's get into our next driver, obviously. Sergio Perez. Was there ever a doubt? I know lots of people did doubt it. We never doubted it. But this is what's interesting about Perez. Perez has been talking to the media. And I think it's interesting what he's been saying. This is basically what Perez has said to the media. I feel like there's nothing to prove. Not just because of the current drivers or the next drivers. He's talking about Red Bull here, or the next drivers that were in my seat. But even before that, he said, now, everyone forgets about it, but it's been a very tricky place to be in, to constantly be adapting, to build confidence mentally. It's a very unique challenge. I don't think I have anything to prove when you see the amount of points they've scored. Red Bull, it's like 5 points in the entire season. It's 7 points, actually. To me, it's more of a comeback to enjoy the sport. I want to enjoy the sport that I love, the sport that has given me so much. I couldn't afford to leave the way I left the sport. And this is why I'm coming back with this new project. I hope it's a very successful one. But amongst that, more than anything, I want to enjoy this comeback. It wasn't very clear for me in the beginning, especially the first couple of months, what I wanted to do next. The more I was talking to the Cadillac team, the more it became apparent that this is what excites me to go back. It's just not going back to the grid with a regular team to fight for podiums and races and points. It's about the whole project. The dynamic, I feel, is different. When asked what he learnt from his time away from the sport, he replied, I learned about myself as a driver. I've been in the spotlight for my entire career, not just in Formula One, even from karting days. And you realise that once you step back and look at the sport as a fan, he watches this channel, things that racing drivers worry about are totally irrelevant to the public aspect, even to the people that know the sport. My vision now, coming back to the sport, is to enjoy it and give it the maximum every single time I'm in the car working with the team. That's what really matters. All the rest are external factors. Now, I take from that Perez has taken this time out. He's reset. He's looking at the sport as a fan, and all he wants to do is every time he's in an F1 car is get the maximum out of the car and give the maximum amount of feedback to the team. Which is why, if you watch the Bottas problem video from a few nights ago, it's exactly what I was talking about. When people were saying, what does this mean for Perez? I made it quite clear. Perez was going to get the seat because Bottas is tied contractually to Mercedes to the end of the season. He can't get in a simulator. He can't get in a test car. So Perez's deal was never going to fall apart because Perez is not in a seat right now, which means he can be contracted to Cadillac, get in the simulator from as soon as tomorrow. He can get in that Frankenstein Ferrari F1 car that they're going to be using for testing and test the car. So that's why we knew it was always going to be Perez when other people were reporting that they may go with a rookie. No. Look back. We've got the receipts, and this is why. I'm going to go to the chat. So let's hope they listened to the car changes. Well, the good thing about Cadillac is they haven't got any cars to change, right? They're just building a car for the 2026 regulations. They have no old cars, which is why they're having to buy Ferrari's old cars and basically Frankenstein that car with new bits to try and get some testing done before they hit the grid in 2026. But we're delighted, aren't we, that we were correct. You know, Bottas and Perez are the perfect pairing for Cadillac in 2026. And we announced it. We called it. We knew it was going to happen. Look back at the receipts, look back at the videos, and we are over the moon with the announcement. And we're also really pleased that it was Keanu Reeves on the video. There is a link, by the way, in the video description if you want to go and watch the Cadillac, the official Cadillac announcement video. It's very cool. It is very, very cool. And you can find it in the description of this video. So yeah, what are you guys saying? Yvonne, Sergio is technically still with Red Bull, but he isn't a reserve driver, so can leave. Is that the actual contractual arrangement with Sergio? I thought that they severed ties and sort of paid him out, that he wasn't on a garden leave, because he's not doing any testing for, he literally does nothing for Red Bull. I think the arrangement was that they paid him out of his contract and let him go. So technically, whilst Perez has been on this hiatus, he can go and work for Cadillac and do the testing. That's my understanding of the contractual arrangement. Yeah, that's what I thought, Eric. I think they did that. They literally paid him out, severed ties, and let him go. And I think that was something that Horner did, because even though the Horner Perez relationship may have soured towards the end, I do think that Horner did have a lot of affection for Checo. So I think that was the arrangement. They let him leave his contract, they paid him out, and I think Horner would have been quite happy for Perez to get another drive. So that, I think, is a contractual arrangement, and that's why I think Perez will be literally itching to get in to that simulator to help Cadillac start developing that car. So yeah, I think that's the setup. So very exciting. If you just joined us, welcome to F1 Grandstand. We're talking about Cadillac. We're talking about Cadillac's announcement of Perez and Bottas. If you've only just new to the channel, make sure you go and watch the Cadillac playlist that we've got on the channel, because it'll get you up to date of how it's transpired to this day. We've kept you up to date with all the news and how it ended up. The announcement came today, and we even called it'll be a double announcement. And I'm sure the people in the chat can back me up on this. I told you it was going to be a double announcement, and here it is today. I even said it'll be within the next week. So here we go. Absolutely delighted that we got that nailed on, and everyone involved in the channel, well done to everybody. And as you can tell from the thumbnail, it's not just Cadillac we're talking about tonight. We're talking about brakes and brake issues. Yeah, we've got some. Bear me 2 seconds. I just need to adjust my camera. So, yeah, basically, we're talking about brakes. Ooh, we've got a lot to talk about. Oh, it's gone off again. Here we go. Back in the saddle. Back in the saddle. So, let's get into this. Brembo have been talking about brakes, and Toto Wolff has been talking about cars and the 2026 car. So the Brembo are basically saying that the teams have been asking for smaller brakes on the rear of the car. Why? Well, we have to first understand that the MG UK, the motor generator unit kinetic, which is the engine component, which is basically regenerative braking, which is going to charge up the battery, because don't forget, we're going to 50% electric, 50% internal combustion engine. So this is interesting because the MG UK, which is regenerative braking, well, how's that going to work? Well, Brembo have been seeing the designs and so every team pretty much on the F1 grid has a component from Brembo. Whether it's the discs, not everyone uses the discs. I know Mercedes use carbon fiber discs from, I think it's called Composite F1 organization, but a lot of teams do use the discs and brakes. So Brembo have been seeing all of these designs coming in, and what they've basically said is they've seen all these revolutionary designs for the kinetic regenerative braking system, and teams are asking for smaller rear brake discs and rear brakes. But the issue they're having is there's loads of different designs, and they don't know if they can produce a brake disc that will still deliver the high performance needed and tolerances needed when at half the size of what they are now. And here's the thing, because that motor, the electric motor, the regenerative properties of that motor will basically be on the rear axle. They're saying that the cars will be needed to, they will have, the motor will generate the braking. Now, why is that important? If they've got regenerative braking, it means that the cars will have to travel through the corner in a different way. Whereas a driver would be rolling through a corner and using the brakes. Now, they're going to have some sort of, this is where it gets really weird, they're going to be having some sort of automatic braking. Some cars will and some cars won't. All these cars are being designed differently. So if the electrification is going to be bringing almost auto braking for cars through certain corners, what does that mean for the driver? And what does that mean for the brake discs? And Brembo are having an absolute problem. They're saying that they can't reduce the size of the brake discs and have the performance in the corners where the regenerative braking is not going to be as active. So again, when we talk about Lance Stroll, who's been moaning about the 2026 cars, saying that we are basically building cars that are taking the decision away from the driver, and they are if they start automating braking, what's left for the drivers to do? But that's a big part of this electrification. The braking is going to be a huge part of it, and they're going to be changing how it's done. Where we're used to drivers pushing the brakes, deciding when the car brakes. That's what they've got now. But with a 50% electrification, they're saying that it can be done with software. I mean, that's crazy. So what are these 2026 cars going to look like? We've seen Charles Leclerc moaning about the brakes. We've seen Lance Stroll moaning about the cars, basically saying that these cars are... And Max Verstappen, by the way. Literally every driver, apart from Lewis Hamilton. I'll come into him later. But literally most drivers on the grid are saying that the simulator testing for these 2026 cars is awful. So why have I got Toto Wolff on the screen? It's because Toto Wolff says the cars will be doing up to 400 kilometers per hour on the straight, which is just shy of 250 miles an hour. But then we have to talk about what the FIA have been saying, that the cars will be up to 2 seconds a lap slower because there's lower downforce and slower cornering speeds. So how long is it going to be when the computers in the car will be like we have the systems that change things from a power output? Well, now, how long is it going to be before clever software will decide the application of the regenerative braking, which could basically replace the need from a driver pushing the brake? The car does it automatically from the program of the track. Because we know each track is going to determine how much electrical power that's available to the drivers from their boost button. So I understand why all the drivers are saying these cars are becoming too computerized. And what that basically means is those decisions can be made from the pit wall. So is this a good thing? And also, is it going to be safe? So Brembo are basically saying, we don't know what we're doing. We've seen but they did say this. They said, we have seen some incredibly innovative designs that, if they work, could change not just Formula One cars and how they apply braking, but all cars on the road. But Brembo don't know where to go. They don't know what to supply. They don't know what these brakes are going to be. They don't know the impact of the electrification of the MGU kinetic portion of the cars. We know the cars are 50% electric, and this is where that regeneration is coming from. So it's going to change the way the cars drive, and it's going to change the way drivers are going to drive these cars. So we've got all these drivers basically saying we're going to have to learn to drive these cars again, and they hate it. They all hate the 2026 cars so far from what they're doing in the simulation. So Brembo have basically raised the alarm and said, hang on, we're still going to need brakes. It's not all going to be done through this kinetic regenerative braking, but the cars will be driven differently. They will be. They will not have free rolling cars. There will be regenerative braking, which will affect how the car slows down through corner speed. So what does that mean for drivers? They're probably gonna have to be sort of, it's not just about choosing the power. They're gonna be choosing about when to let the car brake itself and how to sort of let that take that inertia speed through the corner. But it's fascinating to see what they're doing with the brakes and how it's going to affect the cars in 2026. But basically, Brembo is saying, listen, guys, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know how we're going to deliver a safe braking brake disc. So that's what Brembo, they've raised the alarm. And that's why the extra tests in January, Yvonne, that's right. But yeah, not all teams use Brembo, Yvonne, but if you will find that nearly every team uses a Brembo element, whether it's a caliper, a disc, a piston, that Brembo are literally spiderweb through most teams in some description. Like Mercedes don't use a disc, but they use the calipers. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and Brembo have seen these designs, and it's going to be interesting because they're seeing an absolute array of different innovative designs because it's a major component for the 2026 car because of the regenerative braking aspect and the 50% electrification. Now the braking system, whoever gets that right, is going to see huge performance advantages in that 2026 car. And people that get that wrong, then that's what I love about huge regulation changes. The first Grand Prix in Australia in 2026, we are going to see cars way off the pace and surprising cars absolutely the front of the grid. And I say it over and over again, Aston Martin is the one to watch because of the Adrian Newey effect. But yeah, big news coming out of Brembo about the brakes, and big news coming from Toto Wolff about the top speeds. 250 miles an hour when they get that boost just right. As long as they've got the right amount of battery power available, we could see cars on the Monza Straight hitting 250 miles an hour. And then a total bag of spanners through the corners. That's probably what it's going to look like. Very fast in a straight line. But I don't know how these cars are going to go through corners because don't forget they're losing the ground effect. But they are getting active aero. But the reason why they're giving them active aero on the front wing and the rear wing is because they need to create less drag because they're worried about the battery element being affected. So they need to basically ensure that each car does hit that minimal drag where appropriate, because it's going to cause, otherwise you're getting resistance against the battery, and they're worried about batteries lasting for 70 laps. Hence why people are allowed active aero, and it's a major component of the cars in 2026. Anyway, but that's what's coming out of Brembo. But as promised, I'm going to talk about Lewis Hamilton. Okay, what is going on with our boy Lewis? So, in a fresh update on his social media Monday morning, Hamilton vowed to keep going even when it's difficult. He wrote, "I'm always so grateful for this time, for the opportunity to rest and recharge. There's a lot I've been meditating on. Every one of us is up against it so much, both individually and globally. It's so important that we embrace the light of truth and love and take care of ourselves so that we can better take care of others. We can't look away. We have to keep going, even when it's difficult." He's talking like he's been spending time with his guru. He's been doing yoga, maybe a little bit of ayahuasca, and he's found his connection spiritually. What does this mean for his mental state? Here's what mushrooms, Gemma's saying mushrooms. Maybe it's magic mushrooms. The point is, we can tell he's connecting to himself. And that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to go off after that difficult period and take some time out from all the noise, reconnect to him. And actually, I know I'm poking fun and I'm having jokes about finding his guru. I actually do meditate myself. So I understand the importance of reconnecting to your real true self. And if he's done that, fair play. If he's reconnecting to his true Lewis Hamilton and he's letting go of the noise and he's letting go of what's gone on, and he's realizing that there's a lot going on in the world right now that is, bigger issues than Formula One. And that's helping him to relax into coming into the Dutch Grand Prix with a new attitude and new focus. And I'm here for it. Eric says, I wonder if you met the snake lady. Maybe. It's a lot going on. I think he's definitely done some time out, meditation, some chanting, reconnecting with himself. But what does it all mean? Do I believe he's coming back with a hunger, with a focus for the Dutch Grand Prix? I'm going to say yes. I think Lewis has done what he needed to do. Take a couple of weeks out. Yes, Eric. Drinking the tea, drinking the brews in the Amazon, the ayahuasca. Yeah, maybe he has, but definitely feel he's going to come back stronger. I'm gonna put my faith in Lewis, because when we think about what Fred Vasseur was saying, remember, he did an interview just going into the break where he said that Lewis exaggerates the problems that he sees, especially with the SF25 car. He has extreme comments to the media, which worsens the situation. And when Fred was asked how he can make Hamilton more comfortable at Ferrari, Vasseur basically said, I'm going to tell him to stay calm. Build on the fact that he has already taken the first step, to not let things like what happened in Budapest get you down. He said that Lewis is very self-critical. We know that. He's always extreme in his reactions, and we know that. He's sometimes too hard on the car and sometimes too hard on himself. And I think that's evident, because Lewis wants to get the most out of himself and everyone in the team. But you have to keep calm. You have to keep Lewis calm and explain to him that in Q2 in Hungary, he was only 1/10 of a second behind Leclerc, who later took pole position. And that's no big deal. So what Vasseur is saying is, Lewis, stop making things worse for yourself. Stop talking in extremes to the press. You know, the team's here to support you. I'm here to support you. And together, we have to remind ourselves that you're only 1/10 behind Leclerc, and you would have got through to Q1 and the shootout if you hadn't gone and exceeded the track limits and had that P7 time disqualified. You could have been in with a chance of pole yourself. So really, Lewis really made a minor mistake, which cost him really big. So what Vasseur's doing is keeping him calm. And you couple that with what Ferrari's been doing, going finding himself in the woods, or maybe the jungle, Eric, maybe the jungle. But he's been finding himself, reconnecting, meditating. And I believe he's going to come back stronger, quicker than ever. And we're going to see Hamilton put in a performance in the Dutch Grand Prix. But here's what I really think about Ferrari. I believe Ferrari are building a car, working on the car setup for Monza. They want a result in Italy. And if they get a result in Italy, if they get Hamilton on the podium, maybe Leclerc gets P1. They're going to come to Monza with a new rear wing. We know that. Of course they are. That Monza straight requires a change in aerodynamics. They need a low drag rear wing, and Ferrari will bring that at Monza. But if they are trying to tweak the car for Monza, which is what I believe they're doing, I think that's when we're going to see the Ferrari, which is a bag of spanners, but it'll perform at its best in Monza. So that's what I think that Ferrari are doing. Because if they get a good result in Monza, all is forgiven. Everyone, it's Italy, love them again, and they can just slowly coast to that 2026 car. And you got to remember about the 2026 car. They've been developing that power unit for the last 5 years. So do we think Ferrari are going to bring a good power unit in 2026 with the regulation changes? Of course they are. Of course they are. You know, and then obviously you're going to see Cadillac benefiting from that. We're going to see Haas benefiting from that. But that's what's going on. They're slowly going to put the SF25 into retirement, never to be spoken of again. But if they get a result in Monza, then, you know, that's what it's going to be. But we're talking about the Dutch Grand Prix. Do I think Hamilton is going to bring something different? I do. I think he's going to bring a different attitude. We're not going to see a Hamilton turning up looking defeated, looking troubled. We're going to see a Hamilton turning up looking revived after the break, focused and centered. That's what I get from what Hamilton's been talking about on his social media during this break. That's what I feel. What do you guys feel? I'm going to go to the chat. So we've got Yvonne and Gemma. Gemma says Hamilton's been doing some yoga. I think you're right. I think Hamilton has been sat doing some yoga, meditation. I can recommend it. Oh, Yvonne, going to this chat. I'm glad I didn't miss this. So this reminds me of Mansell when he was in Ferrari. Yeah. Oh, God, do you remember that? If you're old enough to remember Mansell's time at Ferrari, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. Found himself back at Williams, didn't he, after that? But yeah, he had a horrible time at Ferrari. Couldn't get to grips with working in that Ferrari team. And this was after winning a world championship. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's right. It does remind me of that time, actually. I think Ferrari is a unique environment for any driver. They're Italian for a start. They work in the way that they work. They're passionate. Doesn't mean they always get it right. Doesn't probably mean they're the easiest team to work with. But I think if they find a vocabulary between Hamilton, Vasseur, Leclerc and the team, and they can work out what that language is and that vocabulary, I do think they can bring a solid car in 2026. Do I think they can make anything happen in 2025 in this season? Do I think they can make any major changes? I only think Monza, really. I think Monza, we might see the car perform better than advertised and than what it has been doing. But do I think we'll see some improvements in the Dutch Grand Prix? Yeah, but I think they're going to come from the drivers. I think the drivers are going to bring some improvement. I think Hamilton's going to bring some improvement. I think they're going to take some of the lessons they learned from running Leclerc's car at I want to say a legal ride height, but I'm going to say a very low ride height. And the feedback that came back, the car was quick. He put it on P1. He held P1. So I think they're going to take some of those learnings and they're going to bring it into the Dutch Grand Prix. The car will be a little bit better. I do think that. I think the drivers are going to be better. I think Hamilton's going to be better than he has been. So that's what I genuinely think is coming for this weekend. And don't forget, we've got the watch-alongs. So we'll be watching the Grand Prix together and we can talk about the action live as it happens, so we can all keep each other company for that. Make sure you tune in for the watch-alongs. We will be on for the qualifying on Saturday, and we'll be there for the Grand Prix on Sunday. Yvonne, I am positive. I'm a positive guy. Don't get me wrong, I will have a proper rant, as you can watch in some of my videos. But I like to think that after this break, I see it as a bit of a reset. And I want to believe that Lewis is going to come back in a different state of mind. I want to believe Lewis is going to come back for focus. Because the one thing we can all agree on, whether it's been shenanigans at Ferrari, whether it's been political, whether the setups have not been identical, whatever's been going on, Lewis has been second to Leclerc. And what I really want to see is Lewis on a par with Leclerc, keeping him honest, maybe even getting a tenth quicker than him at times. I'd like to see them jockeying for that position of being the number one driver at Ferrari. And that's what I'd like to see. So yeah, I am pretty positive. I'd like to think Lewis is going to, because here's the thing. If Lewis doesn't come back after this reset with a different frame of mind, what Lewis are we going to get at the end of the season? If it just gets harder and harder and harder for him, and Ferrari just worse and worse, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to see him. I want to see this is what I really want, Von. I want to see all the drivers bringing their best in, getting the best out of the car, so I can see the best possible, as a fan, so I can see the best possible racing in Formula One. I don't want to see a driver. I felt like this with Daniel Ricciardo before he left. When you see a driver who sort of loses it, he's nowhere hits his potential, he nowhere hits his mark from where he was. And I don't want to see the death of a driver, and I don't mean that literally. I don't want to see the death of a driver's career in front of my eyes. I want to see every driver on that grid bringing their A game, bringing the best possible racing. That's what I want to see. Yeah, Eric, you're right. If Lewis doesn't find after this break a little bit of form and a little bit of balance in the car, where he is really getting the same performance out of the car that Leclerc is doing, I worry that we're just going to watch the downfall of Lewis Hamilton live. I don't want to see that. He's still a 7-time world champion, and it's like watching. When you see any sportsman, Muhammad Ali. Let's talk about Muhammad Ali. When I'm a boxing fan, but watching Muhammad Ali's later fights, it was heartbreaking, wasn't it? If you're a boxing fan, you saw that he kept on going back out there, and you could see his health was deteriorating. He wasn't the same fighter, and he's going out getting beaten up. Nobody wants to see that happen to somebody that's been the greatest of all time. And that's what I don't want to see. I don't want the Muhammad Ali effect happening to Lewis Hamilton. We don't want to see the greatest of all time fall down like that. So yes, Yvonne, I'm positive. I'm rooting for him, and I want to see him come back this weekend with a renewed focus, a renewed passion, and a better car. So that's what I'm hoping for. Don't get me wrong, I'll be the first. If that doesn't happen, listen, I'm not going to shy away from the reality. I will rant and rave. But as we're going into this Dutch Grand Prix, I'm being positive. So yeah, that's how I feel. But thank you very much for your comments, as always. I know you're right. He will make it. He could make a change at the end of the year if he doesn't find that form. And I want him to. Why not? He's the greatest of all time. Joint greatest of all time. 7-time world champion. We mustn't forget that. He deserves our respect for that. So yeah, that's how I feel about the Lewis Hamilton story. I'm rooting for him. I'm excited for this weekend. God, I've missed it. Don't we miss it? Like, when we have this 3-week break, haven't we missed the F1? God. So yeah, it's been a great day for news. Quick recap. Cadillac announced their drivers. Bottas and Perez, they're the right choice. Brembo have raised some alarms about the brakes for 2026. They could be dangerous, actually, but let's see how that pans out. But what they have confirmed has been some very innovative designs coming in. So it's obviously going to be a major component, which could be the difference on how those cars do next year. And Hamilton, a quick recap on his mental health from his statements that he's been meditating, connecting to himself, and that there are bigger things going on in the world. So it's maybe helping him get some perspective on how to refocus to bring a good drive this weekend in the Dutch Grand Prix. So thank you as always. I'm gonna have a quick sip. Oh, I'm just gonna quickly get Eric's last comment in. On another note, Max can salvage this year also. Yeah, Max. I haven't talked about Max. I'll probably bring him into tomorrow's show, actually. I've been saving that because tomorrow night we're going to be doing the Dutch Grand Prix preview show, and I will be talking about Max Verstappen. I will. And we'll be talking about all the drivers. But today has been about Cadillac. So yeah, tomorrow, tune in for the Dutch Grand Prix preview show tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for watching F1 Grandstand. It's been a really busy day for the news today. Make sure you like, subscribe, share the videos. It means so much to the channel. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Gemma. Always great to have our regulars in the chat. Why don't you become a regular too? Get in the chat. It's a friendly place to be. But for now, I will see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock unless we have any breaking news throughout the day. Ta-ta.